having your cup full and how do you empty it means many things. And the different elements of full cupness, different elements. Sometimes one's cup could be full with useless information, with junk, bottled stuff that you learned. And in levels of bottle, it could be something that's weak, something that wasn't really applicable, or it could be total crap. No sugar on top, garbage, rubbish. Some bottled, bogus stuff that you learned in your country where you came from, or when you have reverted to Islam, or wherever the case may be. And it's something that's totally bottled, useless, fabricated hadiths, total weak, baseless practices of fiqh, false aqidah, and which has to be discarded instantly, immediately, if you want to progress, of course. Sometimes the concept of a full cup could mean information that's maybe sound, but it's useless. It's not applicable. It's outdated. Those teachings are it's totally outdated. It's dinosaur compared to the things that are available, the things that are being taught and spoken on, and the level of the people. You study what some person he says, and this is just general, no disrespect to nobody, but it's a reality. You say, well, yeah, you know, my imam, brother Fulan, he's a nice brother, 65 years old, 70 years old, no disrespect to nobody old, but just a general rule. My imam in this masjid, in this city, in this borough is good. And then you have this guy, he's been to Yemen, overseas, Medina, Egypt, da-da-da-da. It's a whole nother world of imam now. It's a whole nother world of student of knowledge. It's a whole nother world of da'i. And this brother, for one reason or another, he refused. First of all, this older brother may never have even studied Islam formally. He went to an imam convention, imam summit, but he never studied Islam properly. He was never taught properly, let alone trained to be an imam properly. Let alone in the 70s and the 60s, how many books were unavailable? How many books were they reading the English transliteration, Roman transliteration? And this guy here, he's graduated from, let's say, Egypt, from Azhar. He's studied these books in Arabic by heart, memorized them, studied actual fiqh from A to Z. He's qualified to lead the salah. He's memorized Quran. There's no comparison. So this imam's teachings, inshallah, they're beneficial. They give advice. He's been serving the community. May Allah bless him. May Allah help him. But he cannot stand in the ring with what? This it's just like sports. Okay, the sports that the people say. The athleticism is like what? Night and day today. In 2017, then let's say, for example, the Jordan era. Everybody understand this? This was the brothers say. I'm not a big basketball person like that. But this is what they say. That the guys playing nowadays are like what? No comparison. It's like night and day. So that's something you may have to what? Empty your cup. It's time to start from the beginning. This guy is, you know, he's a good brother. A good imam. He's a community leader, like a chief of a tribe. But ilm, knowledge, him being a scholar, malish. Let alone his communication to the people. He may be outdated, or maybe somebody comes from another country. This brother, he came from Pakistan. He's a good brother. He has knowledge, but he can barely speak English. He speaks with a heavy accent. He talks, he cannot relate to the youth. The young kids, they're just sitting there looking like, what is this old guy talking about? That's one concept. Also, emptying a cup may be for a person who's trying to seek knowledge. Bismillah. You may come to the table with presupposed ideas. Isn't it supposed to be like this? Or I've learned. Or we know. I know. I was taught. What is the ruling on wearing green? That's all you should say. Is it permissible to wear white? Now, I know that it's permissible to wear white, but I want to know, that's what? The cup is full. You're coming to the table with what? With information. And it's a problem. First and foremost is, I can't give you nothing if you know everything. Second of all, it proves a lack of humility. And it proves, not totally, but it proves relative amount of arrogance. Meaning, I have to tell you that I know something. Everybody understand? I'm not a complete idiot, all right? I know something. And no one say you're an idiot. No one wants you to be an idiot. But at the same time, what? You got to empty the cup. And maybe you'll, what? Get something important and that's bigger and better. Another concept of emptying the cup is, you may bring information to the table, which is true information. It's factual information. It's beneficial information. It's good stuff from other teachers, other sources, other websites. But if you know so much, that means I'm only going to give you what? Just a bit. Even though you may have room for it. But I'm not going to exert myself because you're already khalas. But you come to me saying, teach me. I want to be your student. I want to be your disciple. Tell me everything that you know. Where do you want me to start? I don't know anything. That's a different story. Everybody saying this? And it doesn't mean that everything I say is useful myself. It doesn't mean that everything you have to agree with, but it means you set the information that you have in your mind to the what? To the side. And you allow all of my information to be poured in. Then when you're done studying with me, you've graduated from me, you've left me, then you pick and choose. Mufti said this, I don't agree with him on that. He said this is major. I have this from my other teacher. Now I do what? Merge them together. Then I have a whole nother level of ilm. But if you come and you're not willing to just move it to the side, that's a problem. Let alone the fact that being willing to consider the information. You may have been formally trained, you may have studied, but let's sit down and let's talk about it scholastically. Are you sure about this aqidah that you're saying? You can't say Allah is above the arsh. Why not? You can't say that. Because I learned in Egypt, Allah doesn't have a makan. It puts Allah so and so. All right, tell you. Let's sit down and let's look at the Kitab and Sunnah. Let's read what the Quran says. Let's find the word istawla. Let's find this line of poetry. Let's find where the Sahaba said what you're saying. Let's go back and let's look at the history of theology, of rhetoric. Let's see the isnad of the aqidah of Ash'ariyah. Mathalan. Nanzur. Let's sit down. You're a graduate from Azhar. I'm a graduate from Medina. Obviously, there's different levels and phases of Azhar University. But let's just say hypothetically, this person from Azhar University, hypothetically, this doesn't mean everybody's like this. So don't say this. But let's say hypothetically, this person from Azhar is saying he is an Ash'ari. And he believes that it is haram to say that Allah thumma stawa al arsh. That that's metaphorical. Allah is not in a place. No problem. And then we have a student of knowledge from Medina. Okay? And he has the traditional, whatever you want to say, Wahhabi, Hanbali, Ibn Taymiyyah Aqidah. That Allah is above the arsh. As he said in the Quran and as the Prophet ﷺ clearly explained to us that Allah is above all of his creation. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tayyib. So let's sit down. We're both graduates. Or we both have master's degrees. We both have doctor's degrees. Let's sit down as two scholastic people and let's debate. And let's look. Your aqidah, where does it come from? It's very simple. It's very easy to be traced back. My aqidah, where does it come from? You call it tajseem, whatever word you want to give it, but where is the isnad? It can be directly traced back to the Sahaba, to the Prophet, clearly. Your isnad is going to go back to Imam Abu al-Hasan Ash'ari, and where does his aqidah come from? How did he grow up? The Mu'tazila, the Kullabiyya, and this one and that one, then that's a huge problem. To the Khulafa of Baghdad, the different caliphs that took the kalam of the Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, the Egyptians, and they mixed and jumbled that stuff up into what we call today the mantiq and the stuff today. So him being a scholar is going to be somebody that has to empty his cup on this level. Let's debate it. And you may be right. But I'm unwilling. I'm totally fanatical. That's also included in what? Not emptying your what? Your cup. Welcome to everybody clear on this? And the benefit of it is obvious. Empty the cup to obtain totality. To get a lot, you have to what? Pour it out. You don't go shopping what? Full cart. Full cart. You don't go shopping with you go shop. Sheikh Mahdi, when you go to the market, what are the carts? They're what? They're empty. And then you're supposed to do what? Fill them up. Rather, as you said, the experts say it's a disaster to shop when you're what? When you're hungry. طيب خلاص والله أعلم.
But I also asked,
how do you empty your cup? By listening to what we just said. Don't ask how, but just think about what we just said. Let that resonate in your brain. Let that what? Marinate. You know, you marinate the meat. You put it in the refrigerator, or you use for how long you marinate it?
Depends what you cook and
At least how long?
A couple of hours.
At least a couple of hours. Let it marinate, huh? Let it marinate, inshallah. So just think about it. How do I do this? Before you jump into how, you need to think about why. And it's a major problem that many people they make. How do I become a student of knowledge? How do I do this? How do I get married? How do we make a community? Why do we need to establish community? Why do I need to be a student of knowledge? Why should I care that? You have to understand the obligation of a thing and the importance of the thing and the harm of not doing that thing. So just look at the harm of having a full cup, or we say full cupness, or full cupism. Look at the harm of that. Once you let that what? Marinate. They say lower the, bring it to a boil, mix the contents, and then what?
Let it simmer.
Just let it simmer. Let it simmer on your mind for a little bit. Then you come back to me and say what?
Why?
How? To empty the cup. See? Wallahu alam. Tfaddal. Anything else online? Tfaddal.
Question from online, initial is UM from Bucks, United Kingdom. Can you say MashaAllah, Allahumma barik when you see something that amazes you in a non-Muslim? For example, if you are a female, see another woman who looks beautiful in public, but she is revealing her adornments by wearing makeup, wearing revealing outfit, for example, can you say Allahumma barik as not to give the sister evil eye, but at the same time she is disobeying Allah?
Right. A question about saying MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, Tabarakal Rahman, La Quwwata Illa Billah, Allahu Akbar, Ya Salam. Mention Allah's name when you see something that amazes you. And this thing that amazes you, or is pleasing, or whatever the case may be, is a beautiful sister, but she's uncovered. She's a fasiqah. She's an open sinner. She's making tabarruj. I would say it to yourself. And don't say it out loud. You saying it out loud may be a means of encouraging her to continue to do it. You see the sister, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah. Oh, really? I look nice. Everybody understand this? Cup full. Everybody understand this? Oh, I really look beautiful. Thank you. I knew this would attract someone. I spent 2 hours in the mirror perfecting this makeup. I spent 3 hours in the store shopping to find this perfectly fitted shirt or pants. You're adding fuel to the fire. So if you see something and your eye feels that it's something amazing, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, to yourself. You don't have to say it out loud. Definitely don't say it to her. Wallahu alam.
Should you take Abu Bakr's question?
Abu Bakr who? Allah alam. I know many Abu Bakrs. Many, kathir. I know Abu Bakr's here. Is Abu Bakr from West Africa? Abu Bakr from many places.
Pakistan, Afghanistan.
Allah knows best.
Abu Bakr, you have to come to class. You want to ask this question. I'm going to ask this question. It's sent from Koran, United States, out of Long Island. Is this an authentic narration? After I am gone, differences will arise amongst you. Compare whatever is reported to be mine with the book of God. That which agrees therewith you may accept as having coming from me. That which disagrees you will reject as fabrication.
In general, the hadith is not authentic. It's fabricated. However, there are other narrations that have bits and pieces of some of that are authentic, such as great differing coming after the Prophet ﷺ. Great differing coming after the Prophet ﷺ. Everybody understand this? Also, some narrations which state and explain to us the concept of a hadith that you hear which is totally rejected. Is rejected, meaning by the people who have skill and mastery of the Prophet's kalam. In which the heart feels rest. The skin is at rest. Absharukum. Alright? Okay? That you know it. That is something that's from me. Then everybody understand this? That's other narrations that support that. But the concept of فَمَا وَقَفَ الْقُرْآنِ abadan. And that's something that was made about the hadith rejectors. As was explained in detail by many of the great ulama of the past, whether it was Bayhaqi or As-Suyuti in his book Miftah al-Jannah. Wallahu alam.
Abu Bakr from Queens, New York. Should we apply the concept of boycotting in the West since Muslims are a minority?
We'll answer Abu Bakr's questions when we see him in person, inshallah. May Allah bless him. Ameen.
And this is MA from Toronto. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Shaykh. What would you advise to a person who feels like the people are turning against them because of dunya tensions? How does a person maintain the peace?
Let them turn against you. It's just that simple. Let them what? Let them turn against you. If somebody poses to be your friend or your sister in Islam or brother in Islam, and it's dunya that comes up and they turn away from you, they don't want to speak to you and talk to you, fadl. Allah is saving you from someone that's not a true friend. It's just that simple. Now, if you're wrong, if you oppress them, that's a different story. Rectify it. I owe Sheikh Mahdi some money, some serious money, and I didn't pay back the debt. and I keep wiggling and hiding and running around, the fact, and he says, you know what, yeah. SubhanAllah, I don't want to do no physical harm to you. This is a reality. You burnt me out my money, you lied to me, you broke your word. Astaghfirullah. That's Sheikh Mahdi, that's what? That's one thing. But if you're not wrong, or if it's something in which you both have an issue with each other, or if it's something that could be easily stifled and stamped out, it can be settled as Muslims, and the person doesn't want to be with you and talk to you, then that's a blessing. That's a what? Blessing. That's a blessing. That's why you should love for Allah and hate what? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no true friend is going to walk away from another friend because of some worldly things. That is not 100% wrong on one side. As we said, some dhulm that was done. That's a different story. You slimy, akhi. I don't want to talk to you no more.
Where's my money?
And you see what I'm saying? That's one thing. You see what I'm saying to you? Which is a dhulm that was done. Clear oppression. That's one thing. But just the concept as we had a discussion ourselves. We had a debate ourselves. We didn't agree on something. We didn't see eye to eye on ourselves. And I totally abandoned you. I don't want to speak to you. I'm not your friend. I look at you funny. It's not a true friend from day one. Wallahu alam. That's my advice. Please don't allow it to worry you.
Angels AM from Virginia, United States of America. Are palindromes a miracle of the Quran? Can we do a tafsir by reading ayat backwards?
I'll tell you. Is a palindrome or a palindrome a miracle of the Quran? Allahu alam. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I haven't studied these things in English or in Arabic, let alone pertaining to the Quran. Is there a restriction on the miraculous nature of the Quran and how it cannot be copied and imitated? Is there a restriction on that? We can't necessarily say that. Allah is al-Aziz al-Hakim, al-Kabir al-Muta'al, infinite power and might, infinite loftiness, infinite pride. Allah Azza wa Jal has infinite power. So can we limit what is miraculous in the Quran? Allah talks about the mountains. He talks about the cloud of blood, how man was made. He talks about the moon and stars. He talks about the clouds, the rain, all types of things people have just discovered. يَصَّعَدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ that Allah فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Allah says, anyone who Allah wants to guide, يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. He exposes his breast to Islam. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ, and he whom Allah wants to misguide, he makes his heart what? ضَيِّقًا. He makes his heart haraj. He makes his heart tight and confined, as if he's ascending to the heavens. People just figure this out. The higher you go in elevation above sea level, the thinner the air what? Becomes. That's why people who fly in aircrafts, whether it's military aircraft, whatever the case may be, Air Force, they have to have what? Oxygen mask. This was unknown in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Anything on this, you need oxygen. You get on an airplane, they say the oxygen mask will fall down. Put your mask on first before you what? Help anyone else. Because you can't breathe. Everybody understand this? This was unknown in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So is this a scientific miracle in the Quran? And is only restricted to that which is clear and known? We can't necessarily say that. Allah tells us about His words. Allah's words are inexhaustible. If all of the trees were pens, if all of the seas were ink, Allah's words would never become exhausted. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, his kalam is a branch of Himself subhanahu wa ta'ala, with regards to beauty, with regards to perfection, and with regards to limitless amazingness. There's no limit to that, to the amazingness of Allah Azza wa Jalla. No limit. So, does that mean a palindrome, backwards, numbers and system in the Quran? Allahu Alam, perhaps. What's important is for us to be careful, and for us to be mindful, and for us not to be hasty in affirming or rejecting something. And sometimes we have to empty the cup. Wallahu Alam. That's my advice. And Allah knows best.
Abul Hassan from Leicester. Okay. Concept of a library, and how should a Hadith disciple build his library, his dojo?
Question says the concept of a library. Hadith disciple building his library and his dojo. First and foremost is, alhamdulillah, with regards to a library, the library of the student of knowledge is a very, very, very long path. The first step in this long path is to realize the importance of the library and the necessity of the library and the benefits of the library and the harms of not having a library. That's the first step. Realizing that there are many ways of obtaining knowledge. From those ways of obtaining knowledge is a book. Not the only way, but from those ways. Some of the most substantial ways of obtaining ilm is what? Is through books. Alright? Secondly is the concept of books reminding you. From every time and then, sleep in your library. Sometimes it's good to sleep in your library. Not in your bedroom, but what? In your library. Or sleep with books in the bed. May sound a little crazy, but try it out. Have your books, when you wake up, you read. You go to sleep, you read. A book light. Just have books around your bed. I'm serious. This is a reality. This is not a joke. This is a reality. The concept of you always being reminded. You're always feeling intimidated. All of these books, how many of them have I read? How many of them have I read and memorized? How many of them have I read, memorized, and understood? How many of them have I read, memorized, understood, and mastered? How many of those books have I read, memorized, understood, mastered, and taught to someone else? How many of those books have I read, memorized, understood, mastered, and taught more than once? So you always have these books around you. The library, it gives you that constant hunger and that passion. Ilm, ilm, ilm. I'm inferior to this library. And you may have studied 20 books and read 20 books and memorized them and a lot of ilm, but it's still what? 20 more and 20 more and 20 more and 20 more. So you constantly looking at yourself as never accomplishing anything. And you're constantly looking at this library as a mountain ahead of you. And you've already walked for 1,000 kilometers, but it's what? Everybody understand this? This is a very important concept. You can't do that if you don't have no books. You may become pleased. You may become complacent. You may think that you know something. All of these books behind me. This one book right here. Let's look at this one book here. Let's look at this book. This book is 1,200 pages. 1,200 pages. I see it every day. I pick it up. I look at it. It's going to have an effect on my mind. I got to read. I got to study. I got to work harder, and what? Even harder. So it's one of the most important benefits of a library. Before you even talk about reading it, is the psyche. Getting in gear. Everybody understand this? Getting what? Getting in gear. Everybody, this is a very important concept. Secondly is having access to information. And you sitting with your friend, debating with them, having a friendly argument. All right, let's go back. Keda, no, la, fulan. That's a benefit. Let alone the fact that you have the ability to write a book. You have the ability to translate. You have the ability to give faida from it on all times. Everybody understand this? Let alone your family. Only Allah knows how your son's going to grow up, how your daughter's going to grow up when they see my Abby had a great library in the house. My humble knowledge, the little bit that Allah has blessed me with, alhamdulillah, I'm grateful for that. I know for sure when I grew up, from the things that had an effect on me was that I had books in my house. That my mother had books and my father had books. I don't think, and Allah knows best, my mother and father had imagined or envisioned anything that's happening today. But the books were what? They were there. So the books are a very important concept. And there isn't any nation that's successful, that's powerful, that's dynamic and thriving, except that it has a great deal of what? Libraries. A great deal of what? Great deal of libraries. Knowledge is power. Ilm. There's no doubt about that. So that's first and foremost. Secondly is, when you read a book, inshallah ta'ala, many faida you get from reading the book. First is, your mind can travel. It can take you away from sadness, depression. It can take you away from being caught up in nonsense and foolishness that the people are caught up today on the social media. How many people on Facebook and these sites that talk, how many of them are real avid book readers? What do you think, Sheikh Mahdi? The people that talk, quack, fulan, mubtadi', hizbi. How many do you, honestly, not know what you know, but what you think in your gut are avid book readers, Sheikh? Bookworms.
Very few.
Very few, if any of them. Everybody understand this? So reading books can be a means of what? Taking you away from problems and taking you away from snares and pitfalls, getting caught up. Everybody understand this? Khairan, inshallah. How to build a library, I would say, is there's several ways of doing it. The first way of doing it is looking at the main sciences and then taking the most important book from each science. So an example of this is tafsir. There are many books on tafsir, past and present. From the most important books, if not the most important book, or the main mothership book, is the tafsir of Ibn Jarir. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. So, Whether you can read it all, understand it or not, buy that book and put it in your library. That's one stone, one corner. Everybody understand this? Then we have mathalan hadith. There are many books of hadith, of past and of present. Different types of hadith. A very important book of hadith, if not one of the most important books, is Sahih Bukhari. Fath al-Bari. Put that in your library. That's another cornerstone. Everybody understand this? Then number 3, fiqh, mathalan. Aqidah, mathalan. Usul, mathalan. And you buy the ummahat, the mother books of each science to start off with. Once you have all of the sciences down packed, just the mother books, not the other small books, then another way of doing it is to take the next level. The most important book after Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, one could say Qurtubi. The most important book to have of hadith after Fath al-Bari is Sharh Sahih Muslim. وهكذا. Until you start stacking up the levels of the bricks until you have an actual wall. Another way of doing it is to focus on one field. It's to take the 5 most important books of tafsir and buy them. The 5 most important books of hadith and and buy them. وهكذا. Everybody understand this? Another way of building up your library, a third methodology, is to only buy the books that interest you. The books that you like to read, the books that you like to go back to and reference to. And then when you got to do a big project, or a lot of research, or something, you go to a public library, online, whatever the case may be. But everybody understand, my what? Library. These books, just for example, are the books that I like to read and I know about them well. Everybody understand this? You ever see a documentary or a lecture, and there's a professor, and he's doing an interview or a lecture in front of what? Books. Pay close attention. Sometimes you see the professor, he's doing the interview in front of books that are encyclopedias. You see big, thick, broad volumes, right? And then the other people, you see them doing an interview in their homes, and there's a bunch of small paperback books, because those are the books that what? His personal collection of books on psychology, or on medieval history, or on culinary arts. Everybody understand this? Obviously, the most effective way is to do what? It's to blend. Work on your library for a year, just with the mother books, the foundations. Then the next year, you work on what? The second layer. Then the third year, you work on what? Your goodies, your treats, your snacks. The paperback books that you like to read, that you went through, and you can point out, and you have the markers and the tabs and the bookmarks. And everybody understand this? Obviously, most importantly, is that you should build your library under the guidance of someone. Your teacher, your mentor. Okay? Whether it's questions that you ask us, or somebody in the UK, somebody that has studied and that knows what they're talking about, and can show you, don't buy this print, but get that print. Don't get this book yet, get that book yet. Alright, the last piece of advice, because we need to do a lecture on this, hopefully inshallah we will, a workshop inshallah, or a series of videos. The last piece is what? Is just because you buy books and you stack your library doesn't mean you have to have read all of them. Don't allow someone to discourage you. Why are you buying all those books? You're not going to read them. You don't even speak Arabic. No. As we said, books will have an effect on you, even if you don't know what's in them. And it will, sometimes you have to grow into things. You have to what? Grow into things. Allah surely knows best. This is brief advice. Hopefully, Bid'ah Ta'ala will be able to do a series on these things with more detail. Inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. The list, book list, the prints. Bid'ah Ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan for your time and attention. Allah surely knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.